Hey, what up, guys? So I'm coming to you this morning with the breakdown video for the huge double main event on September 26th on Showtime pay-per-view featuring the Charlo twin brothers, the world champions. Usually for big cards like this, about 3 or 4 weeks out, I like to do a breakdown video and really look at the details of both fighters. But considering this is a double pay-per-view featuring both Charlo brothers and their biggest fight, I'm going to do it kind of combined. So it might take a little bit longer, but I'm really going to do that and then give you my prediction on my winners. I'm sorry it's coming out so late. I meant to do it a couple weeks back, but I'll make sure to get on top of that. The next big fight is less than 4 weeks away between Lomachenko and Lopez. So I'm going to have to get that one out very soon. I'll probably do that next week. So anyways, let's jump into these two huge fights for the Charlo brothers as they are taking their biggest leap of their careers, respectively, both of them. Let's start off with the, both fights have huge significance. I'm going to start off with Charlo, though, the 154-pound champion. He holds a WBC belt there. He's a two-time world champ. He's taking on Jason Rosario. The hype of this fight, basically, the winner takes 3 of the 4 belts in the division and is the shutdown number 1, pretty much. Has claim to that. Both guys are coming off their career best wins and are looking to ride that wave into this huge matchup and to declare themselves the number 1 fighter at 154. Let's look at the favorite now, Charlo, and what he's got going on. So Charlo is, again, coming off his career best win when he gained revenge for his lone career defeat to Tony Harrison when he lost the WBC title almost a couple years ago in December of 2018. He lost a very close, controversial decision to Tony Harrison. I thought it could have went either way. I personally had Charlo winning the fight, but I didn't have a problem with Harrison winning. But in a rematch, he gained his revenge a year later, last year, 2019, in December. Very good fight again. He was slightly ahead, and he knocked out Harrison in the 11th round of a very good action-packed fight and hyped-up fight. So everything was pretty good about that. Good revenge victory, got his career best win, and he's really rolling right now. Coming in the favorite, basically, what does Charlo need to do to win this fight? That's the first question for the Charlo camp and for Charlo. Basically, he needs to do a combination of boxing and punching, what he's been doing. I mean, Charlo has turned up the power in the last 3 years. He's really turned up the power and become a power puncher. He's really steps into his punches and does well. But he was a very good boxer before that. In this fight, he needs to be on point with both. Because Rosario can hit hard too. He knocked out Julian J. Rock Williams, surprised him. Charlo's got a good chin, so I think he needs to stand back and box for the first couple rounds to get a feel for what Rosario's doing, and then he can take chances after that. But he is the better boxer, so he needs to take advantage of that right there and really kind of see what his opponent is going to do in front of him. That's his key to victory right there, in my opinion, is to box and punch and to take the first couple rounds to feel out Rosario. Box, use your jab, don't take too high risk early and really see what he's about. Semi-aggressive, not too aggressive though, not overly aggressive, because then he's going to play right into Rosario's hands. Now, do I believe that Charlo can win by knockout? Yes. Rosario's been knocked out before. He is a guy that kind of somewhat stands right there in the pocket and can be hit. And Charlo has had a lot of power. Like I said, over the last 3 years, he's really stepped up his power game by the way he boxes, changing trainers, all that stuff. So, definitely can win by knockout. Can Charlo win by a decision? Definitely. He can win by a decision. I think of the two, he's the better boxer by far, and I think he can keep him off of him and win by a decision. I think he can do that. Yeah. Now, what happens for Jermell Charlo if he wins this fight? Well, pretty much he's a favorite, and what happens if he wins is, sky's the limit. He becomes the man at 154 for sure. He can pick and choose who he wants to fight. He'll have multiple title belts. For instance, he wouldn't have to be forced into a mandatory defense against Erickson Lubin or Terrell Gausha, the winner of that fight, on the 19th of this month. He wouldn't have to be forced into that fight because he could give up the WBC belt and hold on to the other two belts. But yeah, like I said, this division's hot, and if Charlo's leading away and controlling it, it really looks good, and he can get big fights, and it's a big deal, and it would be his career best win. So a lot can come from this victory right here. But also how he wins the fight's going to matter. I think because he's a clear favorite going in, I don't think he has to win by knockout, but I think it has to be decisive. If this fight is close, people are going to continue to doubt Charlo. So it needs to not be close. He needs to put a stamp on it. A knockout would be huge. That would really, a decisive knockout would be huge. It would really let everybody know that this guy's for real, that Charlo is for real. And, but a one-sided decision would work that way too, just wouldn't have the same impact. But, again, people got to know that Jermell Charlo is the real deal fighter. That he can do this. And, I don't think a lot of people expect him to lose, so he needs this win right here. He needs to get this win to continue to prove for the next test, for the guys that are expected to give him a real test, like a Jarrett Hurd and all that stuff. But this guy, he's fighting right time, right moment. He's got a big opportunity right here. Now, what happens to Jermell Charlo if he loses? Well, I don't know if there's rematch clause in the contract. I don't know how that works. Depends on how he would lose. That's a big one right there. It would really hurt him though. It would really derail him and have people continue to question how good the Charlos are, especially in Jermell. And I really think this is an opportunity for Jermell right here to maybe move ahead of his brother for the time being and prove how good he really is. So we'll see. Now let's go look at Jason Rosario. What does Jason Rosario need to do to win this fight? He needs to have the same kind of effective aggressiveness that he had against J-Rock, but he doesn't need to overexpose himself. He does that. Charlo and J-Rock have similar power. I think Charlo has more, but Charlo's not a monster power puncher. He just sets up his punches well. And if you stand right in front of him, Charlo's going to take advantage of you. This guy's been knocked out before. So I think he needs to have good effective aggressiveness. I think the first couple rounds, he needs to see how aggressive Charlo's going to be, but he does need to be more aggressive than Charlo in those first couple rounds to see how Charlo takes his punches. He needs to try to get inside that pocket, close up the distance between Charlo, because I think the Charlo twins have a similar style to that of Deontay Wilder. They need to extend on their punches, full extension, in order to hurt you badly. So, with that being said, I think he needs to get inside on Charlo and see if he can do some damage there, see if he can land a big shot, and see how Charlo takes it. He needs to push Charlo, in my opinion, but not leave yourself wide open while you push. Box your way in, set your punches up. But he does need to be the aggressor. He needs to not try to let this fight go too late unless his stamina's on point. That's the other thing. He needs to be smart and not overexert himself. If the fight has to go late, especially if he's winning, he's got to be able to last the 12 rounds. So we're going to see, because he's been knocked out late before by, I think it was Nathaniel Gallimore knocked him out late in the fight. So this guy really needs to come out and see what he can do. Now, can he win by knockout? Absolutely. He knocked out J-Rock. I don't think Charlo's invincible, but Charlo does have a good chin. But Rosario can punch. I think he can win by knockout. If he surprises Charlo's overlooking him, and he gets caught, definitely he can win by knockout. Can Rosario win by a decision? It's going to be harder on this one. I think if they go 12, I think unless he's punishing and pounding on Charlo, and Charlo just isn't engaging with them all that much, I think he's probably going to win. He could win decision then, but it's going to be tough because Charlo's a good boxer. He's the better boxer between the two. So it's going to be a tough one right there. And then we do What happens for Rosario if he wins this fight? If he wins this fight, you have to confirm that he's the real deal. It's not just a one-hit wonder fluke win over Rosario. If he can go out and beat Charlo too, man, he's done what he needs to do. So this is huge for him, right here for Rosario. Big time win right here. It would be huge. He'd shut down. He'd be the #1 fighter in the division. Then he could pick his poison. He could do whatever the hell he wanted and fight whoever he wants at 154 for sure. So a win would be huge. Of course, how he wins would matter. If he barely beats him, if it's controversial, they're probably going to rematch. If he wins decisively, knocks him out, one-sided decision or where Charlo doesn't want to fight him again, that'd be huge for him. What happens if he loses? I don't think anybody's going to be surprised if Rosario loses. He's coming in the underdog. So if he loses, I don't think it's going to hurt his career all that much. He'll actually be a former champion, and going forward, guys might want to fight him because he's been in there against the top dogs and been a former world champ. People want that kind of credibility on their resume. So really, he's in a win-win situation, in my opinion, is Rosario going into this fight. He really is. But again, 3 of the 4 belts, if he pulls out the victory, sky's the limit, and be huge. Now the final thing, who do I think is going to win the fight between Jermell Charlo and Jason Rosario? I'm going with Jermell Charlo. I think he's going to break Rosario down. I'm seeing a middle to later rounds knockout. I do think Charlo's a good fighter, possibly a very good fighter. I don't think he's great, but I think he's good and solid, and he's good enough to beat Rosario. Looking at Rosario's resume, looking at who he beat in J-Rock Williams, I was never really impressed with J-Rock Williams. I think Jarrett Hurd was overlooking him, and J-Rock fought the fight of his life. I don't think he can repeat that, and that's why he got knocked out against Rosario. Yes, he was overlooking Rosario, but overall, just skill set, everything combined, I don't see it with J-Rock. I think Rosario, I don't think he got lucky. I think he just was being overlooked. He's got some pop, and he's good enough to where you shouldn't overlook that guy. But in terms of, do I think he can beat Jermell Charlo at his best? I think Charlo, this is the biggest point of his career so far. I think he knows what he needs to do. He did it against Tony Harrison. He stepped it up, set up his punches, took his time. I love the way he broke Harrison down, even though it was a good competitive fight. I don't think Rosario's as good as Tony Harrison. I just don't in terms of overall skill. I think Charlo's going to knock him out or a one-sided decision. But I do think Rosario's a live underdog. I do think he could win this fight, and it should be a good one. So that's it. I'm going to stop at that one and do Jermall Charlo separate. But that's the breakdown for Jermell Charlo versus Jason Rosario. That main event is on September 26th on Showtime pay-per-view. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.